let's go ahead and get rolling here. So, wanted to kind of cover some social media stuff today, some content stuff. I think that's an important topic that we need to talk about pretty consistently here because content definitely leads to increased results and outreach. So, I want to talk about exactly different types of content that we should be creating, and then I'm going to kind of cover the platforms that we currently utilize for this, and just overall talk about how to drive conversions with your content, like how to actually nurture your audience to become clients. So first things first, I know I cover some of this stuff in the course, but I think it's a good refresher to touch on right here. So as you can see, like this is my Instagram page, and covering like the overall branding piece of Instagram first, and then going down into the content is important. So first thing I kind of want to cover here is like the setup of the profile. So as you can see here, like on my page, you can see that in my name section right here, you can see that I've put NLP and business as my actual like name next to my my actual name. So the reason why I do that, and the reason why it's beneficial to do that with your profile, like to put what type of coach you are next to it, maybe like, you can put like spiritual mentor or, dating coach, like different things like that in the actual name, is because the Instagram search function works like a search engine, but it's categorized based off of the name. So for instance, like I've actually had a good amount of inbound people who have sent me a message just because I have NLP in my name. They've actually reached out to me. I had a recent guy who was an inbound lead for us, and he DM'd me clients, just like I told him to with my bio. And the reason why he did was because he's a real estate agent who does NLP, and he's looking to step into like doing NLP for real estate agents and becoming a coach. So he had reached out to me all organically. He came across my content. He liked the content. He saw my bio, and he followed my instructions in bio. So this is why this stuff's super important, is because it works. Like the main thing to understand is when someone comes across your Instagram page, they have to have like a direct call to action that guides them in the right direction. If they don't know what to do, then they're just going to go to the next profile. We know how short, the attention span is in 2022. So as you can see here, the name, adding like your title here is definitely important. I've got Automated Coaching Engine here because that's obviously our offer and our company. And then I've got my XYZ statement here, but I use like some comedy in mine because I like that kind of like flavor to it. So mine says, I help transformational coaches sell online programs like toilet paper during the pandemic. So getting a little chuckle on that first impression. And then my call to action here is DM clients for info. So that is like a clear direction to somebody who reads my bio and comes across my page, right? If someone finds me through social media content, they come to my page, they look at my page, they like what they see, they're going to read my bio. And the fact that I'm telling them what to do, they're likely going to follow my instruction. So that's why the bio is so important, is because it's what people are actually going to read before they take action. And we need to point them in the right direction. So a lot of times, like the big problem I see with a lot of bios is they don't have a clear call to action. And my favorite call to action is the DM, like DM a keyword for info. And the reason being is because it sparks a conversation. And as we know, like conversations lead to conversions. So that's what I really like with the Instagram setup. And then I've got like my personal website that just has a bunch of links, like my YouTube channel, Automated Coaching Engine website, stuff like that. Right here, I've got highlights set up, of course, in different areas. And then when I scroll down to content, this is some of the stuff that I really wanted to cover today. Not only with feed content, but I also wanted to cover story content. So I'm actually not following my own instructions right now. Yesterday was a pretty rough day, so I didn't end up having any Instagram stories. But you definitely want to stay active on Instagram stories. I recommend about like 5 per day Instagram stories posts, and making them fully encompassing. So like not just business, show the different areas of your life. And this is why those 4 brand pillars in the course are so important, is because you can show those 4 brand pillars through your story posts. And, this is where you actually build that one-on-one connection. Like the content on the page is important, but I see it like this, right? I see the entire Instagram space as a funnel. Your content that you post on your feed attracts followers, and then your story is what keeps them engaged, right? Because you can only really watch their story if you follow them. So your content is going to attract your audience, and then your story is going to keep them engaged and keep them wanting more, right? So as you can see here, I use a few different types of content to grab attention. I rotate personally, my content strategy rotates between reels, carousel posts, and regular photos. So reels is the biggest opportunity on Instagram right now. So as you can see, like with my reels, if I go to reels here, I get a good amount of like viewership on all my reels, like 11K, 17K, 12K. So this is all like free exposure right now, right? Like I'm posting these reels. Obviously I have a big audience, so that helps, but reels just has the opportunity for anybody, whether you have 100 followers or whether you have 100,000 followers, you can still get a ton of exposure with reels. And there's certain different frameworks that you can follow. So for instance, like this post right here, I got 2 inbound DMs from this post right here. And as you can see, it's this like trending music that I was using. And I was talking about pain points with coaches, and then I gave them a call to action: DM me clients to solve these for good, right? So 3 struggles coaches have: imposter syndrome, feeling weird about sales, struggling to niche down, DM me clients to solve these 3 for good, right? I got 2 DMs of people who sent me clients just from this post. Obviously not, crazy amount of leads, but still these are free people that are reaching out to us who didn't even follow me prior to me posting this, right? So it was a direct, they saw this reel, they were interested, they DM'd me without even ever following me or knowing anything about me. So what I encourage you guys to do is get out there and get active on social media to the point where like step out of your comfort zone. Believe me, like this trendy stuff, like I don't necessarily enjoy making this type of content by any means. Like I'm not looking forward to creating it every time, but I know it's what drives results. And what I wanted to talk about with content ideas, because I know that's where most of us struggle. There's 2 struggles with content creation. Number 1 is content ideas, and then number 2 is the execution of content. So with content ideas, the thing that I want you guys to do is spend time literally brain dumping every single problem or every single issue that your target audience has in the pursuit to transforming the way that they want to transform. So when it comes to dating, since Andrea's here, and then I'll get into the other offers too, is like when it comes to dating, write down every single problem that someone has with finding the right partner. Every single problem. And every time you want to create a piece of content, look at one of those problems and create a piece of content around that problem. Like that's as easy as it can be, but our content has to be, to get conversions, our content has to be problem focused. It has to like shed light on a problem and then offer the solution, just like this does here, right? It's like I show what the struggle is for most coaches when they start their business, and then I give them a direct solution to DM me to solve them all for good, right? So if you guys spend some time writing down all the problems, every single problem, like this should be a running list of like 100 problems at the end of the day. This should be something you're working on consistently, is just like continuously writing down every single problem that people experience in the route to making the transformation that you provide. And that gives you a whole list of content to create for your target audience and direct it specifically to that audience. So that's what I recommend for content ideas, is to list those problems. Like for Joe, with the audience that you're pursuing, like what are all the problems that the fitness niche has? Just like we were talking about yesterday, it's like a lot of them, some individuals get like really drawn towards fitness because maybe they were bullied, maybe they were picked on when they were younger, like all these deep rooted things that draw people towards fitness, and it becomes like away focused. Like, what are all those problems? And obviously, like, believe me, fitness is obviously a huge part of life, and a lot of people get involved in fitness just because it's fucking important. But there is a lot of away driven focuses with fitness, like self-conscious stuff and like all that. So list all those problems, and then at the end of the day, you'll have a whole running list of content ideas for you. Same thing with energy healing and like healing emotional trauma and stuff with you, Roxanne. It's like with a healing journey, what are all the problems? List all the problems that people could experience, resistance, like all these different things that people could be experiencing as problems in their pursuit to healing. You now have a ton of content ideas to create content around. Then the second piece is execution, right? So the concept of like execution can be tough because, you know, it does take some time for us to step out of our comfort zone and create effective content. And like yesterday was a really funny experience for me because yesterday all afternoon I was shooting ad material for our next like launch of Facebook ads, and the videographer I was working with, I had never met previous to us meeting to shoot content, right? So like this is someone I have no idea. He messaged me from Instagram when I posted about needing a videographer, and I had never met him before. And it's funny because, you know, back in the day, I used to like, my stomach would like turn even thinking about recording content. Like I hated recording videos. And it was just like a very enlightening moment yesterday because I was working with this guy that I had never met. You know, like all these stories will pop into your head about like, oh, I don't want to look like an idiot in front of this person and like all this shit. And recording Facebook ads is like a whole nother level because you have to be super corny and super fruity in order to get people to like actually take action. So I have to like talk a different way that I normally talk, which makes me step out of my comfort zone, right? But yesterday was really incredible because even though all that was happening, like I showed up and had zero fucks. Like I gave zero fucks about any of that, and I got the job done and we got some dope material. And like this all came from just consistent reps, like stepping out of the comfort zone and saying, you know what, like let me fucking stop thinking about my own, you know, self-consciousness around creating content, and let me reframe that into the fact that if I don't create effective content, I'm not going to attract the people that I want to work with. Therefore, I'm not going to impact as many people as I want to impact. So the big reframe, and I think I talked about this the other day, the big reframe for me was like realizing that creating content is not about us. It's about the person that's watching it. And if we think about us, we're going to think about the way our hair looks. We're going to think about the way that, you know, like our whatever, like our shirt looks or whatever the case may be. And we're going to think about that if we think about ourselves. If we think about the end consumer and the fact that there's someone out there that needs the message that we have on our heart to share, then you'll get the job done and you'll get results. Like the content needs to come from your heart, and that's when it's the most effective. That's why like a lot of our content recently, Mike and I's, have been like reels that have come from our podcast, because our podcast, you know, we get some like really natural like passion, right? We're having a passionate conversation. We get passionate and like we off the top of our heads say like valuable information that, you know, is like I said, very natural. It's exactly who we are as individuals. So it's a very effective piece of content that gets us a lot of exposure. But, you know, with reels and specifically, I want to like put a highlight on reels because like I talked about TikTok, reels is the same opportunity. Like reels is it right now. If you're on Instagram, you should be focusing on reels for your creation process. And what you have to do is this, right? So this one right here is a great example. I'm just going to use this one just because this is like a trendy topic. So this video that I just covered with you guys, this was actually a trend on TikTok like 2 weeks ago. So what happens on Instagram is the trends come from TikTok. So for instance, like with creating reels, the most important part of reels are the sound, the concept, like, you know, the concept is tied to that sound, right? Like the sound makes sense with like what we're actually putting out there. And then the idea has like an actual call to action to it. So like those three things are the most important. But understanding the fact that TikTok actually drives reels, you'll be able to catch trends and be able to get a lot of exposure that you never thought you would be able to get. And it's all from catching the trend from TikTok before it becomes a trend on Instagram. If you're early to the trend, you'll get a ton of exposure. So like pay attention to TikTok, create content for TikTok, and then you can actually repurpose those as reels. And a lot of times that will actually catch a lot of traction because those trends on TikTok haven't made it to Instagram yet. So this is one of those videos where the trend was very trendy on TikTok, but it didn't really make it to Instagram yet. And now it's starting to catch a lot of exposure. Like if I click on this sound here, there's 17,000 reels with this sound. So now it's starting to get a lot of exposure. But I think when I posted this, maybe it was, and obviously I didn't drive this increase in posting by any means, but like when I first posted this, there was like 5,000 or 7,000 posts with this, and it's increased by 10,000 over the past like week. I think I posted it like 2 or 3 days ago. So now it's like a hot trend that I can ride and get a lot of exposure from. And like I always say, or said on a recent call, is like attention is where we make money. Like we need to get attention on our brand, share our message, like have solution focused content that hits on some pain points and some problems, and we will get results. But the two things that hold us back, like I said, are ideas and execution. Ideas can be solved by you making a long running list of problems that your clients experience in the pursuit of their transformation. And then execution, you just have to reframe that mindset to, instead of worrying about, us, focusing on the message, focusing on who's going to be watching it and solving that problem and like helping somebody. And we will impact a lot of people with a lot of reach. So I wanted to really touch on those main things with Instagram specifically, is probably all I'm going to cover for today, because Instagram is a very content focused platform. Like Facebook, you can get away with posting zero content on Facebook. As long as you have some posts that like show who you are and what you do, you can get away with that through outreach. Instagram is a very content focused platform that, people want to see consistent messaging on there. There's a lot of, like, when I go to this, all I see is content, whereas Facebook, it's a little bit different of a feed, right? So I wanted to cover this. Reels is super important, and I wanted to give you guys some actual action items to focus on. And the action items are to really create that long list of problems. You probably already have some problems written down from your offer audit. I want you to literally push yourself to get to like 50 problems. Like you can, if you push yourself, find at least 50 problems that your target audience experiences at some point. And if you push yourself, you will be able to hit that number. So that's what I wanted to cover today in regards to content. I know I've covered some different frameworks for like captions and stuff like that in the past, so I'm not going to cover that. But the main one I really wanted to talk about was Reels and how much opportunity is there. I think that if every coach in our program got really consistent with posting a minimum of a reel every other day, if not every day, then all of our businesses would absolutely explode. Like that's how much opportunity is through Reels right now. And you guys now don't have to send messages all day or anything like that. So you have time to allocate towards this, and building the brand is that important piece. So, this will always be something that we cover consistently in this program, but wanted to cover some of that today. So Mike, do you have anything to add with what I mentioned?
No, sir. Definitely hit the nail on the head as far as like content in general. Just like my takeaways from what Mike was sharing, one of the big things that I know he's recently implemented outside of like what we were doing, as far as like the podcast, as he mentioned, that's kind of like the main source of content for us. But I know Mike has recently implemented like a quote unquote like content day as well. So it's kind of like a day where, the only task at hand is creating content. And the person who shared this with us, mentioned doing this, and this type of like structure would allow them to create content for like the next 5 weeks type of thing. So something like that might be really valuable too. As far as just being able to have like content that you can post. But yeah, I mean, those two like kind of ideas are definitely like the best in my mind, as far as like actually creating content, like a quote unquote like content day, and then leveraging like podcasts like we've mentioned, whether it's starting your own or being guests on others, it doesn't really matter. Just something that is going to allow you to kind of create content naturally, just like Mike was talking about. But yeah, the another good takeaway from that was just making a list of all the problems and using that as a reference, when you're creating content in the future, and then writing the trends of like the music and stuff, like the trending noises, the trending sounds, that type of stuff is definitely really important too. Even using like trending stickers and that type of stuff on Reels. But yeah, so overall, yeah, I think that's really short and sweet as far as like how you can get it done yourself, as far as creating content. But yeah, good job, Mike.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll open up questions then. So do any of you guys have any questions based off of what we talked about today first? And then if there's none based off of that, we can jam on some other questions too. So does anybody have any questions off of what we talked about today? Cool. Sounds like we covered it pretty good then. Does anybody have any questions about anything that's not related to this topic?
Killed
That's
it.
cool too. That's cool too. Actually, one thing while we're here anyway, and maybe you guys have questions as we kind of talk about this, is Andrea, I'd like to kind of like touch base on what I messaged into your channel today with like the kind of like divorce audience. Um, what do you like? How do you feel about that audience as like a micro niche? Like, do you enjoy working with that type of structure or that situation, I should say?
To be completely honest, when it comes to women who are divorced, they're more challenging than me working with men who are divorced.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. I was just curious because there's definitely a like a micro niche there, maybe even for males if that's the pivot. But I think for now we keep things the same. But I was just curious to hear your perspective because the team was just kind of clarifying because they had found a good amount of like prospects in the past few days that they could see that they were like previously divorced or whatever the case may be, and they didn't know if that was like the audience you wanted to go for or not.
I mean, there's definitely an audience. Is it my ideal client? Not really. Mostly because divorced women, nothing against divorced women, and I'm not trying to blanket the statement across all of them, but in my experience as a coach, I find that a lot of them read a lot of books, and that's great, but then they come into coaching with well, I read this, or I read that, or I'd rather just do it my way. And it's like, well, then why'd you hire me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally understand that experience as a coach for sure. Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of get like a pulse check on like how you felt about that audience in general, because like we can include them as targets. We're not going to like obviously focus on them if it's not something that's totally
Cool.
desired, you know?
Yeah, cool. I like that.
I just wanted to kind of make sure, you know, if it was an audience that like you enjoyed working with, then we could have then like that could have been a potential pivot to like focus on that. But if it's not, then we'll just keep it the way it is. Like they're okay for us to target, but not the overall focus.
Right. Cool. I like
Perfect.
that. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for that then.
Thank you.
Joe, Roxanne, Alexa, does anybody have any questions today, or all good?
I'm all good, Mike. This is super helpful, and it's got me thinking. I have some stuff. I have a bunch of stuff for us to hit on next week during our call, so I think that'll give me more clarity. But no, man, this was super helpful, and yeah, nothing for me right now.
Sounds good, man. Alexa, did you have something? I think I saw you on mute for a second there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm good and hello.
Perfect. Thank you. Sounds good to me then. Sounds like everybody's covered for the most part. So we'll drop this recording in just so that you guys can kind of, refer to this later on.